Hello everyone, I'm out here in the Logan, Utah City Cemetery, just having a look around at some of the old graves and the newer ones. And I just wanted to show you and go over how symbolism on headstones has changed since the 19th century, how it went from being very communal symbolism to more of a standard homogeneous symbolism that didn't really have any community meaning. And then today where we see many very customized headstones. So anyway, hope you stick around. So cemeteries today, they provide a very interesting cross-section of American society, both in regional terms and national terms. In the 19th century, many of the symbols used on headstones were more or less nationally used. One that comes to mind is the Gates of Heaven, which was a popular symbol that grew out of the post-Civil War years and was used nationwide. Here in Utah, though, there is some interesting regional differences due to the Mormon arrival in the 1840s, 1850s. Some of the graves here have symbols that are unique to Mormonism, mainly the beehive. So let's just have a look around and see what symbols and interesting headstones we can find. So first off, we've got one of the older sections of the cemetery here, and these two interesting markers. They're unique, really, at least to this cemetery, and I'm sure the area. I've not seen the like here in the West. They're almost medieval. So here we've got Hiram, son of Joseph and Hannah Thatcher. He was a member of the Oddfellows. And the Oddfellows are a fraternal organization formerly known as the Independent Order of Oddfellows. Their symbol is a three-link chain, as you can see here, with the letters FLT, which stand for friendship, love, and truth. They also share many of the same symbols as the Freemasons, and because of that they were often called a poor man's Freemasonry. Got this rather noble monument to Mr. Thatcher. But over here we've got this column. If you'll notice up here on top, it looks like the column's been broken, and one might think that that is a symbol of vandalism. Well, it's not. It's a symbol that it was a life cut short because the column is incomplete. It's an uncommon symbol, and I think that's probably due to the fact that it was rather expensive to make, because you had to make essentially 3/4 of a little column. And then see, if we go around the backside here, we've got Virginia Mary Spencer, daughter of G.W. and Luna Y. Thatcher, born January 15th, 1862, died December 5th, 1886. So she was definitely young. So here we have kind of a dual symbol going on here. We've got lilies and we've got stonework. So you mind the shadow. So stone, that is a Christian symbol, and it has its foundation in Scripture, where Christ says he will build his church upon the rock, which is Peter. And the lilies are a symbol of the resurrection. Probably because they bloom in spring. They're one of the first ones to bloom, or they're one of the first flowers to bloom. So here we've got a bouquet of flowers, and in the Victorian era there was something called the language of flowers, and one could put together a bouquet and have that bouquet symbolize many different things. So you could tell someone you admired them simply by the selection of flowers you put in your bouquet. So you're communicating without using words. Basic symbolism. But here we've got, importantly, funerary flowers, at least two that I can recognize. So here we've got a rose, which you see on many graves. It's a classic symbol of beauty. But we've got morning glory here, which is another Christian symbol of resurrection. And looks like these are daisies. I'm not familiar enough with the language of flowers to know what the daisies mean. If you know, please put them down in the comments. We have another important flower symbol. This is a rosebud, and as you can see, Mary Hicks was just over a year old when she died. And so, as you can see by the rose, it's still in bud. It's not fully bloomed, which means her life was cut short. So it carries the same symbolism as the column, just in a smaller flower form. So over here we've got two more graves containing classic 19th century symbolism. Here on Mary Ann Pollingwood's grave, we've got a scroll, which some people have interpreted as sort of a scroll of life. Some have said it means something similar to like a book of life. I'm not totally convinced of that, but there's probably some meaning attached to it. But above the scroll we do have calla lily here, morning glory, and then ferns, all of which are Christian symbols of resurrection. But over here on Henry Wood's grave, we've got an oak leaf. And an oak leaf is a symbol of fortitude, courage, loyalty, strength, you know, all good things, all hardy, sort of 19th century manly things. Here we've got a little more of an interesting part with a small iron gate around this place. But on this relatively large one here, we've got, as you can see, wheat, a sheaf of harvested wheat. That's a symbol of a life lived to its fullest, and they died at a ripe old age. And then down here we have some examples of the Book of Life. John R. Edwards, born 1848, died 1917. To lie in hearts we lean behind. To hearts we leave behind is not to die. Not sure what that says. It's a little difficult to read. Got a similar one here with different sort of writing in the book. Anxious fear can reach our loved one sleeping here. So that definitely speaks to the idea that Mary Ann is not totally gone. She's just at rest. So turning now to this family plot here, we've got this great column, and up top is a funerary urn. Now funerary urns, well, the urn dates back to the days of Greece and Rome, where Romans would cremate the dead and then bury them in an urn. The urn up there, let's see if I can zoom in. Nope. The urn up there has a wreath of flowers, one of which I can spot is a rose. The other one's a daisy, so I really ought to learn what that one means. But it's draped. A draped urn can mean many different things. It can mean the protecting love of God. It could mean the mortal veil. It can mean many things. but this one belongs to the Miller family. So there's Millers, some Hewitts in here. Must be related to the Millers. Looks like it didn't fare too super well over time. It's got these iron bindings. We've got these long sort of tombstones. Little gate. We had some early snow this year, so do have some deadfall. Over here we've got these raised tombstones. I'm not sure what they're called. So we've got the ivy, which is a multifaceted Christian symbol. It has a three-pointed leaf symbolizing the Trinity, and it's also a plant that's perpetually green and provides hope, or is a symbol of hope even in the dead of winter. One over here we got a peeping gnome for some reason. We have more ivy and ferns. This one's an older one. In memory of Richard Hopkin and Mary Jane, children of Alexander and Margaret Lewis, born 1871, 1878, and Mary's 1876 to 1878. So they might have both died of an illness. But this one's an early one and doesn't have any special symbolism beside the rope. And I'm not sure what that means. And over here, we've got a hand that's pointing down. So the hand that points down simply directs the passerby to pay attention to this person. The hand also holds some flowers. I'm not sure what those flowers are. But this is Thomas, son of Robert and Mary Henderson, born 1861, died 1865. And then over here we've got very Catholic symbolism. We've got a crown surrounded by a laurel crown. The laurel crown you see in ancient Olympics. It's the victor's crown. You see it in use in Roman times as well. The crown there is the symbol of Christ as King of Kings. So we pop around, we've got an actual Christian cross with swords through the crown. That's exciting. I don't know why the swords are there. It seems like we just have the same thing repeated over and over. But it looks like this stone is meant for a number of people, mainly children. So it's a stone to commemorate at least 4 children. Over here we have another large monument. This one is dedicated to Ezra Taft Benson, who was an early apostle of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, more commonly known as the Mormons. There's a photo of him. 1811 to 1869. This almost certainly was placed here well after he was buried. But another funerary urn up top. There's a lot of squirrels here. Just in case you were interested, they're all about. Ah, this one's a good one. So the Gates of Heaven. The Gates of Heaven became popular after a book called The Gates of Heaven was published after the end of the Civil War. It became a national bestseller, and one of its main sort of points was that the gates of heaven don't only swing one way. They don't only admit souls and close, but they can open to allow souls to return to earth. So The Gates of Heaven is about grief and loss in the wake of war. But we've got the Gates of Heaven here. We've got an anchor, which is another classic Christian symbol, anchored in Christianity. Also could mean that the deceased was a sailor, though I doubt that was the case here. Got father and mother here with the draped book. Peace, perfect peace. Griffith Charles, 1829 to 1906, and Ellen Charles, 1847 to 1938. So chances are this was placed here when Griffith Charles died, as the Gates of Heaven really fell out in about 1910. You really don't see them much after that. And if we come over here, got another very classic symbol, doves. So on the left we've got Hiram, son of Martha J. and John Ormond, and on the right we've got Joseph J., son of Martha and John. So the doves indicate that the person's soul is on its way to heaven. It's also a Christian symbol of the Holy Ghost. But what's important here is what the doves have in their beak. And that is a rosebud. And as you can tell, the rose is truly in its budded stage. So both Hiram and Joseph here died in their youth. This is another more modern use of an urn. And you'll see these up through even the 80s, 90s. An older military headstone, sort of a shield there. A Spanish-American War veteran. Over here we've got a more recent veteran's headstone. H. Lewis Fornoff, World War II. And the symbol up there on the head is, I guess, an army symbol that he was a Mormon. We've got another example of a sheaf of wheat. But in terms of its body, this is it's metal. Just cast iron. So it'll last a good long time, but it's just a symbol of how everything in America really has just become mechanized and industrialized. You still have some of the 19th century symbols, but all you needed to do was just slap on a nameplate there. You're good to go. Maybe have a special base molded, and it's all done and dusted. Here we've got two examples of sheep or lambs laying down. Another very common symbol for children, though they're not always on the graves of children. It's another Christian symbol, being a member of the flock of God. The fact that the lambs are laying down is a position of repose or rest, which has its own symbolism. Now this grave is quite unique, and I do wonder if it's the genuine piece of wood that was stuck here in the 1890s. So this is just wood. Tell it's been here a while. we do live in a fairly dry climate, so I mean, it might be going on 130 years now, but this was just meant to be a temporary marker that became permanent. So in memory of William Hardy, July 30th, 1809, died January 1890 something. So anyway, at some point someone's gonna have to stick a proper headstone down for this gentleman. Over here we've got an example of a grave in a foreign language. We've got a Danish husband and wife here. It says, "Mean husband," surrounded by oak leaves. Christian Jensen, født den 25th of January 1826, på Åland, Denmark. Død den 16. februar 1901. Du gaet, men ikke glemt. Fred med dit stof. I don't speak Danish, obviously. I speak German, so I can pick out fred. It's probably Freude or joy. There's Bertha, and her headstone is in English, reunited. So as you can see, the headstones are all in a line, and according to Christian tradition, people are buried facing east. But here we have two exceptions, and Jamshid Magami from Iran clearly indicates that he was a member of the Muslim faith, and his grave points towards Mecca. So if you're to go in that direction, you'll hit Mecca eventually. Here we've got another unique grave, at least unique to this cemetery. It's a log, or a tree stump. Tree stumps can mean a few different things. First of all, it could mean that the deceased was a member of the Woodmen of the World, or some organization like that, which was basically an insurance company. And part of your policy was that you got a headstone when you died. It started in the late 1800s, 1880s, 1890s. And Woodman Life still exists as an insurance company today, though I don't know if you would get a headstone with your policy anymore. But it can tree stump can also mean that the person's life was cut short, much like the column. But in this case, that clearly is not the case. This is Alma Harris, nephew of Martin Harris, the witness. And if you happen to be unfamiliar with the story, Martin Harris was one of the key figures in early Mormonism in America. He helped fund the publication of the Book of Mormon, and was a witness to the Book of Mormon as a physical fact. So he stated he felt, touched, and saw the golden plates that Joseph Smith stated he had received from God. So anyway, this is the nephew of Martin Harris, and Martin Harris is actually buried pretty close to Logan here. But as you can see, it's really detailed. It has the rings up top. The scroll work is nice. Got some ferns at the bottom. So, multi-symbolic headstone. And what cemetery would be a complete cemetery without some mythology attached to it? So with this headstone or monument, she apparently can be heard crying or weeping or something on a full moon. Why? I don't know. It's the Cronquists. So as the 20th century wore on, headstones became less unique, less symbolic. Any symbolism that was put on them was just pretty much cookie cutter. Like you picked from a catalog and that's what you got. So they're a little more personalized, I guess, in that chances are the deceased picked what they wanted on their headstone. But they were not about communal symbols anymore. And as we moved on towards the 21st century, headstones became almost hyper-personal, depending on your budget, really. But over here, we've got Cooper, who was a brick mason, as the tools of his trade. Cooper, well, this is an interesting little symbol. 1012. Do wonder what that means. Then over here, we have a very, very unique headstone. It's almost medieval in style. Andrew Howard Palmer, July 15th, 1983 to November 21, 1986, son of Val and Norma. We will be together again. We will, our little teacher of pure love. Your precious gift we will never lose. Today, tonight, and always, we will think of you and we will remember. Love, Mommy and Daddy. Football, book, a golf club and a golf ball. Just a little boy cuddled with a plush toy. Very sad. Now here on the current edge of the existing cemetery, got more examples of hyper customization. Here for Justin Jacobson. He's got a steel skateboard. He's definitely not forgotten. Certainly a good thing. Some pouch, strange stuff. But certainly among the most unique headstones anywhere, really, it's this one here for Matthew Cole Larson. As you can tell, there's a bunch of Legos on it, and it is quite literally made of Legos. Everything is Legos. These may well have been his own Legos. Statements of love and memories on the back. But yeah, very nice and very unique. And last on our little tour of the cemetery here is an internet famous headstone, and it's become internet famous only in the last year, in 2021. It's the Fudge recipe headstone. Before we have a closer look at the recipe, let's have a look at the people whom it belonged to. Catherine and Wade Andrews, married December 1944, Salt Lake Temple. And so Kay's fudge recipe is 2 squares of chocolate, perhaps, 2 tablespoons of butter, melt that on low heat, stir in 1 cup of milk, bring to a boil, 3 cups of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, pinch of salt, cook to softball stage, pour on marble slab, cool, and beat and eat. Wherever she goes, there's laughter. That's very nice. So, I don't know about you, but I'm definitely going to try that out at some point. Well, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that little look at Logan City Cemetery and some of the traditional symbolism that has been used in American funerary rituals. And again, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.